To conduct a document review utilizing the Approved Supplier program under the SQF Module 2.3.4, first check if the document title matches the uploaded file name on the dashboard. In this instance, we do have the same titles as the Approved Supplier program. Next, both must have the same document code. For this example, we do have 2.3.4P0. Since this is a template, we indicate the PCQI as the account initials. However, we can customize the code based on the company's initials. For the page number, we use the page X of Y format to ensure that it reflects the current page position and the total page number of the document. Then insert the company logo here, together with the company name, the company address, and enter the designated department. For the originated by section, it can be the food safety, quality assurance, or the quality control personnel of the company. The originator ensures the implementation of the quality management and document control system. First, enter the name of the originator, affix the signature, the position title, and the date originated. For the reviewed by section, it can be the personnel assigned in the Quality Management Department who reviews the drafted document or its revision for accuracy and implementation. First, enter the name of the reviewer, affix the signature, input the position title, and the date reviewed. For the approved by section, it must be the person in the C-level management who has approval authority. First, enter the name of the approver, affix the signature, input the position title, and the date approved. The revision date is the same as the date originated or drafted by the author. For the effective date, it is the date the document was signed and approved. The publication date is when the document is published for distribution and initiated personnel training. The implementation date is when the document is distributed and personnel training is completed. For the supersedes, put original for the initial issuance of the document. For any revisions, reflect the initial revision date before the current revision. Please be reminded that this section must be properly filled out to be compliant. Now we will focus on the components of the program. First is purpose. The purpose is the implementation of any certification standard or compliance with a regulatory requirement. For this program, it is for implementation with the SQF Module 2 Edition 9 for food manufacturing under Clause 2.3.4. 1. To implement SQF 2.3.4.1, the responsibility and procedure for selecting, evaluating, approving, and monitoring an approved supplier shall be documented and implemented. A current record of approved suppliers, receiving inspections, and supplier audits shall be maintained. 2. To implement SQF 2.3.4.2, the approved supplier program shall be based on the past performance of a supplier and the risk level of the raw materials, ingredients, processing aids, packaging, and services supplied, and shall contain at a minimum 1. Agreed specifications, 2. Reference to the level of risk applied to raw materials, ingredients, packaging, and services from the approved supplier, 3. A summary of the food safety controls implemented by the approved supplier, 4. Methods of granting approved supplier status, 5. Methods and frequency of monitoring approved suppliers, 6. Details of the certificates of conformance, if required, and 7th, methods and frequency of reviewing approved supplier performance and status. 3. To implement SQF 2.3.4.3, verification of raw materials shall include certificates of conformance, certificates of analysis, or sampling and testing. The verification frequency shall be identified by the site. 4th, to implement SQF 2.3.4.4, the receipt of raw materials, ingredients, processing aids, and packaging from non-approved suppliers shall be accepted only in an emergency situation and provided a receiving inspection or analysis is conducted and recorded before use. Fifth, to implement SQF 2.3.4.5, raw materials, ingredients, and packaging received from other sites under the same corporate ownership shall be subject to the same specification requirements, approved supplier requirements, and receiving inspection as all other material providers. And sixth, to implement SQF 2.3.4.6, supplier audits shall be based on risk and shall be conducted by individuals knowledgeable of applicable regulatory and food safety requirements and trained in auditing techniques. Next, the program is scope. The scope of the program is based on the purpose and serves as a guide in defining and describing the layout of the procedure. We have methods of selection, evaluation, re-evaluation, followed by approving, monitoring, compliance with material or product specification, the approved contract services, emergency suppliers, registers, food defense, vulnerability assessment, food fraud mitigation plan, materials received from other facilities under the same corporate ownership, supplier audits, and records to be maintained. Third is policy. The policies are the rules set by the company as their implementation guide. Under policy, we have 1. Ensure records of supplied materials coming in are inspected and are from an approved supplier. 2. Selecting, evaluating, approving, and monitoring procedures for an approved supplier are documented. 3. The company ensures that suppliers' materials are verified and compliant to the standards. 4. The approved supplier program includes providers of contract services such as transport, pest control, maintenance, labor hire, etc. 5. Suppliers that have been used in past emergencies or used in future emergencies are assessed and included in this program. And 6. Emergency suppliers used in an urgent situation and subject to receiving inspection and analysis are assessed for further use and included in the approved supplier program if appropriate. The fourth component of the program is procedure. The procedure is the step-by-step process and the actual implementation of the policy. Under that, first is methods for selection. 1. Good supply history. Most approved suppliers have been supplying the establishment for years. This history and relationship-based are used as a method for selection. 2. Certified supplier. GFSI, GMP, FDA, USDA, or state-inspected suppliers are factors used for selection. Third is documentation. Approved suppliers avail the following documentation concerning the material offered to our establishment as applicable and submit annually or as specification changes occur. The material or product specification, COA or Certificate of Analysis, COO or Certificate of Origin, Certificate of Conformance, the Letter of Compliance, Letter of Guarantee, and if applicable, the Organic, Halal, and kosher certificates. Fourth is the HACCP Food Safety Plan. Suppliers have a documented HACCP Food Safety Plan. Fifth, Recall and Traceability Plan. Suppliers have a documented recall and traceability plan and conduct traceability testing and mock recalls on an at least annual basis. And sixth, Supplier Quality and Food Safety Audit Questionnaire. All suppliers complete the questionnaire and return it for review prior to approval. Second, under procedure is evaluations. 1. Quality factors such as appearance, weight, the size, color, freshness, and integrity of the shipment are used to evaluate approved suppliers. 2. Timely delivery of ordered materials is also utilized as an evaluation tool by the establishment. 3. COAs are used as a basis to meet product specifications. On sensitive microbiological ingredients that are pre-certified, one product is verified annually to verify the effectiveness of the pre-certification program. Raw materials are classified into potential microbiological sensitivity, and the frequency of testing depends on raw materials classifications and results. And product testing is rotated according to the finished product testing rotation schedule. And fourth, vendors who supply COAs for products shipped to the company are subjected to the routine microbiological raw material testing program to verify COAs. Third, under procedure is re-evaluations. Suppliers are evaluated based on the methodology of their origin approval. Performance and documented issues are also considered. Next to re-evaluations is approving. Approved suppliers are approved based on the following factors: the meeting specification requirements, meeting food safety standards, meeting regulatory requirements, quality of the materials, availability, and cost. The approving team are the president or the CEO, quality assurance or quality control, and the production. Fifth, under procedure, is monitoring. Documentation, records, or registers to include as applicable. The approved specification, the COA, COO, certificate of conformance, the letter of guarantee, followed by the letter of compliance, the SDS, and if applicable, the organic, halal, and kosher certificates. Next is the ongoing surveillance. Document deficiencies in the following areas as they occur in a calendar year: the failure to comply with specifications, contaminated loads, failure to submit documentation, and poor quality. Next is audit reports. Suppliers will be required to have a third-party audit and provide evidence of an inspection within the last 12 months. The supplier must have unacceptable ratings from the third party and provide a report of corrective actions for review. Suppliers with serious violations and deficiencies will not be approved. Sixth, under procedure is the compliance with material or product specification. Approved suppliers shall issue a letter of compliance or a certificate of compliance for the material they are intending to supply or current supply. Next is the approved contract services, which you may refer to Contract Service Provider Program. Under approved contract services, we also have the off-site storage. All off-site storage providers abide by the following standards. 1. Must have a third-party audit and provide evidence of an inspection within the last 12 months. The off-site storage must have an acceptable rating from the third party and provide a report of corrective actions for review. Off-site storage with serious violations and deficiencies will not be approved. 2. Must have a documented food safety program. And 3. Must complete the supplier quality and food safety audit and vendor questionnaire and return it for review prior to approval. Next is emergency suppliers. Emergency suppliers must provide a letter of guarantee and COA before receiving the product. Must provide the material sample for analysis. Document the analysis findings. And if additional orders are necessary from this supplier, initiate the approval process. Ninth is registers. 1. All the approved and emergency suppliers are registered. Supplier details are included in the registers are the following: the name, street address, primary contact, the email address, and the phone number. 2 is supplier's register. It includes the approved supplier register and the emergency supplier register. And third is the contract service provider register. 10th, under procedure is food defense. Measures to secure incoming materials and ingredients, which you may refer to food defense measures. Next is the vulnerability assessment, which you may refer to vulnerability assessment ingredients, followed by the food fraud mitigation plan. Next is the materials received from other facilities under the same corporate ownership. All materials received are subject to establishment's approved supplier program and must meet all specifications requirements. 14th under procedure is the supplier audits. 1. Supplier audits are performed based on risk, and third-party auditors and personnel trained in auditing techniques are utilized. And lastly, under procedure is records to be maintained. 1. Approved suppliers registers, and 2. Records of inspection and audits of approved suppliers. The fifth component of the program is responsibility. The responsibility of the person is indicated. It covers what to perform to comply with the procedure or the policy. For all personnel, that is to adhere to this policy. For the PCQI or the Preventative Control Qualified Individual, to oversee the compliance of the procedure, to ensure personnel is trained on this policy and procedures, and to monitor and take corrective actions to ensure compliance with this policy. For the supervisors or department heads and team leaders, they are responsible to ensure and verify this policy and procedure is adhered to, and take corrective action to ensure compliance with this policy. For the quality department, to validate training and adherence to policy and procedure, and to monitor and document non-conformance observation, also known as discrepancy using corrective action preventive action or the CAPA report. For the quality or compliance department, that is to document control, records, and archive. And lastly, for the approving team, that's for the president or CEO, and the quality assurance or quality control. The sixth component of the program is corrective action. The corrective action is the process of taking appropriate steps to eliminate causes of nonconformities or other undesirable situations. Under that, 1. In the event that suppliers fail to meet the above criteria, they will be removed from the approved supplier list. Place suspect and unacceptable materials on hold. Document the supplier's name, quantity, and lot number and dispose of the items on hold. And document all deficiencies and report back to supplier or vendor and receiving department. And, in the event of changes in the approved supplier requirements, inform the concerned department and update all relevant documents and implementation. Next to corrective action is review quality. The review section serves as guidelines for conducting the annual or periodic review. Annual review is to be performed by the supplier approval team. And frequency, annual or as scheduled, whichever comes first. Under frequency is documents, and the documents included are the documented approval program, the risk rating applied to suppliers, approved supplier register. All materials or services in use are included on the registers. Approval methods test for compliance with agreed specifications. Specified actions when non-compliance is identified. Documented test or inspection methods and corrective actions have been followed. Relevant staff training and awareness of inspection and receiving of goods. Supplier program modifications based on supplier performance. And emergency suppliers utilization, inspection, and recordation. Eighth is documents. The reference documents are the set of documents used to implement and monitor a program, policy, or procedure, which includes the Food Safety Plan, Recall and Traceability Plan, Contract Service Provider Program, the Supplier Quality and Food Safety Audit and Vendor Questionnaire, Approved Suppliers Register, the Contract Service Provider Register, Food Defense Measures, Vulnerability Assessment, the Food Fraud Mitigation Plan, Supplier Audits, and records of inspection and audits of approved suppliers. Ninth is references. The reference section is composed of guides utilized to implement the program. Examples are the Certification Guide, regulations, and other widely accepted scientific journals, research, and the like. It must comply with the standard format citation, which can be based on either MLA, APA, or Chicago style, and update the access date. Lastly is History. The History section is where we can update the program if there are any changes or revisions made in the document. If there is a revision, enter the revision number, followed by the revision date, the description of the change made, the name of the author or the originator, and the title or department of the author or the originator. Thank you for participating in this document review. Content presented are for training purposes only and are based on the interpretation of standards and best practices and must be customized for your intended use. To fully customize your programs, policies, procedures, forms for records, and lessons for training, you may contact Interlink IQ or Consultier Inc. at services@interlinkiq.com or simply call 202-982-3002. For free access, visit interlinkiq.com.